Testing. Okay, good. I'm on.
That's right, testing. We are on. Hey everybody, this is the Jimmy Doan Show. We are live right now, if it's 4:01 wherever you are, or at least Eastern Standard Time. This is Jimmy Doan Show. We do this twice a week, 4 o'clock, Wednesdays and Sundays. Today is the 20th of January 2019, and after the show, I will repost a nice subject-timed copy up on YouTube for your easy perusal. But we hope you join us and comment and have a good time. So,
Well, when you get a producer in here, we'll be able to do it live. But
yeah.
anyway, we'll have to do it afterwards.
Yeah.
So welcome. This is Jimmy Doan, along with Counselor Curtis.
Hey.
Okay. Yay. Look at my hand gets real big when I wave it.
That's right. That's right. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Okay, good. Well,
Hey, Gene. Good to see you.
all right. So the continuing news is the shutdown, right?
Well, that's one big thing. To me, the big news this week was the fake news extravaganza.
Oh my God, the BuzzFeed.
That was a huge one.
Okay.
And I had people come out, and just we'll recap briefly for people who who didn't get the news. The BuzzFeed came out with a story that President Trump had instructed his lawyer Cohen to lie to Congress, and this was according to senior law enforcement officials,
Anonymous.
top men.
Top men.
That's right. And so everybody jumped on this. Of course, it was
they totally
impeach immediately, impeach.
Unbelievable. I mean, I saw that. Well, I saw it when it came through.
Right.
And I immediately. I was like comment number 2.
Right.
Bullshit.
Right.
That's exactly what it was. I mean, I looked at that and I thought, you cannot be, and I was thinking to myself, C-SPAN or not C-SPAN, but CNN or MSNBC or whatever, to think for 2 seconds that this is a story, you're nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, you are so crazy. And it was all anonymous and it was from BuzzFeed, for God's sakes. I mean, of all the reliable news sources on the planet.
Well, of course, they just scuttled any credibility they had.
Well, what was interesting was at least one, finally, after it became pretty obvious, especially after Mueller came out, which he never does.
Right.
And came out and said, that was not accurate.
Say
that. And of course,
amazing.
Well, this was interesting because it says that's not accurate. Well, of course, interesting. That's not accurate. It doesn't say that there isn't a grain of truth somewhere, to me. But everybody knows what this was. This was Washington speak for if this is bullshit.
Yeah, and because I can't imagine that if there was any grain of truth, he would come out and dispute it in any way.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons.
Well, it was one of the anchors, at least I forget which one it was, on one of the commie networks or whatever, did say this really gives us a black eye.
Well, yeah, they did that, but
it's only
that was after they got busted.
Right. But it was a mea culpa.
Right.
Interestingly enough, BuzzFeed stood by their story.
Well, whatever. Look, they're tabloids at this point. It's obvious. This should make it clear. Look, you read the story itself. They had a part in the story where they said that the story was predicated on the concept that the negotiations about the Moscow Trump Tower were ongoing during the campaign still, and that's what Trump had instructed. I'm pretty sure that's what the story. If not, this was another parallel story.
Doesn't matter.
But the concept was okay, and then they said in the story that the meeting never happened. Okay, well, if the meeting never happened between Cohen and the Russians in order to build the Trump Tower, well, then somebody turned the meeting off. Somebody shut it down. It almost had to be Trump, if you think about it. I mean, it wasn't Cohen. He didn't have the authority to cancel the Moscow Trump meeting, right?
Yep.
It wasn't the Russians, because why would you not want to have a deal with the incoming president of the United States? So the story, it scuttles itself because it shows that Trump had more to gain if he lost the election. You know, they shut down the negotiations.
Right.
And instead of going through with them, if you know they made these innuendos, like, Ivanka was supposed to manage the spa, and Jared was going to do this and that.
No, and Putin was going to get a $4 million penthouse or something.
Something, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so none of that happened.
Nothing.
Right.
I mean,
So-
if you go to the site today where that was going to be, there's nothing.
Right. No, it's like no. That's what kills me is that they're trying to do this on, and this is the same thing with the Trump Tower meeting. Nothing happened at the meeting.
Right.
But because maybe you lied about something that we thought maybe could happen, it's just such a bogus story. It's amazing.
Oh no, it is funny because it's. But again, the like you say, well, you have a news outlet called BuzzFeed. Mm-hmm. Now, I got
Nothing
news.
clickbaity about that.
No.
It can be called clickbait.
BuzzFeed.
Right.
We got the buzz for you. You know what?
Right. Right.
You know, this screams tabloid at
Right.
you right away.
Totally.
And to think that these guys picked it up, they're so desperate to get rid of. They do anything to get rid of Trump. Seriously.
Yeah,
When they have Acosta and all these other people reporting this as if this is news.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they even think it's new. I think the guys at the top understands that it's entertainment at this point.
Okay.
Maybe the people down the line still think they're journalists or something, but I mean,
No, I would certainly, look up the dictionary. What's a journalist? Because it ain't what those guys.
I gotta think that at this point they sort of just cringe while they read the news or
really.
the news.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. It reminds me a little bit of when I had a job years ago that I was an underling, but I knew the ins and outs of the particular job, and the boss, that people would come in and they'd order something, and it turned out we had a 24-hour turnaround because we could order up from our supplier, and so I'd give it to the boss, and of course it wouldn't come in. And it turns out that he wasn't ordering this stuff. I mean, we were paid for it and didn't order stuff. And I finally figured it out, and I was like, I'm cringing. Every time I'm sitting there thinking, of course, I'm supposed to say we can have it for you, but that was my job. Mm-hmm. And I said, I can't handle this.
Yeah,
this is not any good. Okay, so anyway.
Well,
go ahead.
The second is the huge new fake news that's splashed all over the pages in the last 24 hours. The Indian guy and the Catholic boys.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you saw where Doug Adams? What's his Scott Adams?
Yeah.
Complete mea culpa.
Yeah.
I mean, complete, because he was like, and what's so funny about this is he has a rule, a 48-hour rule.
Uh-huh.
Well, he didn't do it this time.
No.
And
well,
so,
I think that's why he was a little chagrined.
He really
embarrassed.
I think he's re-upped his 48-hour rule.
72.
His rule is when he hears something like this,
right.
He waits to see if it's actually true. He waits 48 hours. Well, this time, then he chastised the Catholic kids.
Yeah.
And then they went back and they looked at the video, and it turned out it was nothing like whatever they said it was.
Right. And so for people who haven't seen this video yet, there's a couple or 3 videos now I've seen going around. One of them has what looks like a very smug little teenager with a MAGA hat on, smirking in the face of an American, pathetic looking old
elderly,
veteran, Vietnam veteran, American Indian,
tear in his eye.
Right, totally tear in his eye with and he's got a drum and he's beating the drum in the kid's face. And from that, you really can't figure out what's going on.
No.
If you watch the whole video, which there's a 2-hour video up there.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what they showed was they showed the 90-second split,
right,
which had all the MAGA hats around this Indian and
jumping up and down
and everything. And of course, immediately they said, these punk kids mocking a Native American,
right.
And so anyway, it turns out
racist punk kids,
racist punk
right.
Kids, yeah.
Now, if you watch the video though, it's super clear. Well, and the 2-hour video was made by these black Israelite guys. And they're the guys who get up there. There's 5 of them, and they set up a little PA system and start screaming real racist, real homophobic stuff. Like, just flat out, just
Not gonna, can't do that today.
well, they start
Obviously, you can't free speech.
right, and they start calling the Catholic kids. The Catholic kids are all in a bunch. They have like a spot, and they're
Right.
there. And
Of course, they're just kids. I mean, they're like 15, 16.
well, they're high school.
Yeah, high school.
So yeah, kids. And so and the black guy starts telling the kids that they are school shooters. They start calling them crackers. They start telling them that they're sodomites. And I mean, they're going off on the kids. Okay, and they're praising themselves the whole time as they're doing it. They're like, look, we're 5 lions sitting here, and we're surrounded by people, and they're not doing anything. It's like, well, yeah, because they're not doing anything.
Nothing, yeah.
and as he's panning the camera around, like it's like the bunch of boys, and then there's like 2 girls on bicycles. You know, he's like, we're surrounded. You know, it's like, you know, it's like a mom on a bicycle. Yeah, right. You're surrounded.
A very large mom.
Oh yeah, right.
That's right. So
And yeah, so and then apparently the black guys are associated with the Indian.
Oh yeah.
Because as the Indian guy walks up, and you know, you can see him, he walks up and he's beating the drum, and as he wades into the group of boys.
Okay.
And the black guys, as he does that, the black guys are saying, "There goes Gab." They're calling him Gab or something, and they're like, or Gad, and they're like, you know, he's going into him, you know, he's doing it, you know, he's hitting them with the drum basically, and you see all it looks like the kids are kind of dancing with the drum and stuff, and then the black guy narrates it. He's like, you know, we've lulled them in, the violent Catholic boys, into passivity with the drum, as the spiritual God has taken over, and but it's amazing. The boys are now facing expulsion.
Are they really?
Oh yeah. No, it's like all news today. The news today is,
wait a minute.
Why even wait to expel every one of these boys? Kick them out today. Don't even let them come back into the school.
Fortunately, tomorrow's a holiday anyway.
Well, right.
So.
But it's amazing because if you listen to the chants as the black guys are chanting stuff, as they say things like, "Go and be a school shooter" to the kids, you hear the boys all in unison go, "Oh, no," like, no. You know, they're obviously, you know, shouting down that concept. Mm-hmm. And the same with every other, you know, when they say something homophobic, the Catholic boys are like, hey, you know, chill with that kind of language and stuff. And so, but they're gonna have to defend themselves, apparently.
I'm blown away.
The media has scurrilously thrown these kids under the bus for their story. And the kids may end up paying a real price because the media is so irresponsible with their reporting on this one.
Media are.
Yeah, them.
That too. The grammar Nazi says.
Jawohl!
Jawohl, yeah. God, the media was plurally. Okay, so the deal is that, but I just find it stunning that if you go into your school or the headmaster or whatever it is and say, here's the video.
Well, that's what they're going to have to do because
I mean, they're going to get an attorney and everything?
It depends. It depends on how reasonable the school is, whether the school actually looks at the videos or whether the school responds to pressure. Now, it's a Catholic school, so they may be like, hey, you know what? Psh, these are our kids. We're going to deal with them the way we want to deal with them.
Yeah, at least.
I mean, if it was a public school, they'd be, yeah, exactly. Okay. No, they would be not. If it was a public school, this would be a nasty, nasty fight.
Huh.
I think, because I think the public school would unanimous instant issue there'd be a statement today about their disrespect, you know, and the kids came out and made an apology.
Oh yeah.
But you know they're going to use it against them.
Right.
They're going to say, "Oh well, because they apologized, they admit that they knew that they did something wrong, and therefore they need to be punished." And that's what's going to happen. Not, you know, in this country, unfortunately, we don't treat confessions like confessions. We treat them like
admissions of guilt.
Right.
Exactly right. All right, moving along. Let me just. This is a little bit more on the shutdown.
Okay.
The big news. It's still going on now, so in its 4th week or something.
Yes.
And Trump did come out with a a very, I won't call it lame, but it was an offer. And you know, we'll do the DACA thing. We'll, you know, give him 3 years of this or something, you know, temporary pass and so forth, and good luck giving him my wall.
My damn wall.
And of course, as Nancy, who was not, by the way, in Brussels, because the bus.
Oh my God! Well, did you see how he trolled her?
There was a cartoon.
Yes,
there was a cartoon, which is the best cartoon I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It shows Trump looking out the White
window,
House, looking out the window, and said, "Wait for it."
They're getting on the bus.
They're getting on the bus. Wait for it. Wait for it. Send the letter.
That's perfect.
Oh.
They're on the bus going to the airport before they find out they can't go.
Well, it turned out that there were on this. There were. You know how many people were? There were something like 13, or no, I forget. Something like 13 people that were senators or house members on this junket. 93 people were going on the plane.
Oh, no kidding.
All the hangers on,
right.
This, and what's fascinating is of course she, Pelosi had said, well, we don't want you to give the speech in the Capitol building,
right,
because of security, but we're going to go to a war zone.
Well, look,
and we're gonna, this will be the thing when Hillary, got off the helicopter and said, and we were dodging bullets, right?
Yeah.
God.
Well, look, everybody knew this was political from the day one, and this is so great. From my opinion, this is perfectly why we thought Nancy would be great for Trump, because she's a perfect foil.
Oh yeah.
They now get to spar with these meaningless political attacks. I'm canceling your speech. I'm canceling your plane.
Yeah, right. Well, everybody said this is so juvenile, blah blah blah, and I'm sitting there. No, this is. It may seem, yes, it is, but the whole thing's juvenile. I mean, it's this. We're looking at the original soap opera thing. This is the reality show in reality. I mean, this. What I think about this when you look at some of these reality shows like The Bachelor or one of these things, or on the island, and you're thinking, well, it can't be reality because there's like 19 cameras there on these people. I mean, the guys holding the microphones and everything. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the old Sam Kinison, the producer's right there with a sandwich going, don't feed him yet!
God, I tell you, I watched him. So anyway, what's interesting about the way they're doing this the shutdown is they're bringing out the tiers. These are they found the people that are suffering. Mm-hmm. Now the 800,000 people are off or whatever it is, and of course I think a fair chunk of them are contractors, and they're not going to get repaid apparently. I mean, if you're hired by Joe's cleaning service, right, and there's no cleaning going on, Joe says you have to go on. I'm not paying for that. And I mean, unless the contract specifies that you get paid anyway. But this is one couple, for instance. We have no other option other than declaring bankruptcy. This is how the shutdown is going to affect these people, and whoever this girl is, she said she's expecting a baby in March. Works in software development for a private company under a government contract. And so she's worried, they're under contract. She's probably not going to get paid. She and her husband, this is the key phrase, it said, she and her husband are also among the nearly 80%, that seems a little high, of full-time workers in the U.S. who live paycheck to paycheck. 80%. 8 out of 10, huh?
Doesn't surprise me.
It does me, full-time, and you don't have a little savings? I mean, I don't
know how they define paycheck to paycheck. I mean,
well, they're talking. She's talking about. Actually, this story was quite lengthy. I didn't bring it all here, but they went through a whole bunch of stuff about people were going to. Again, a lot of it was scare tactics. But they're going to lose. They're going to lose their credit rating. They're going to be this, that, and the other thing. It's going to take years to repay this. They can't pay their student loans. Their house is going to be repossessed. And of course, you and I know that. It takes a little longer than 30 days to repossess a house. Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely going to be some negative effects, and they're pawns in this whole political thing, but, you live by the government, the teat, you die by the government. Well,
one guy said, he says, I was a civil servant because I wanted the security. That's the only reason I'm working for the government. Well, of course, what this points out to me is, as we go on with this, and more and more people say, where's the problem? I mean, you hear the problem from the press, but as far as you're concerned, a lot of people.
Well, obviously, what we heard last week was that the magnetic North Pole was moving.
That's the big deal. And is that because of the shutdown?
That is.
Yeah, okay.
And the sun is dimmer. That's right. And
dimmer. That's right. Yeah, it's
big effects.
Well, it's really the thing about the sun is it is now. I will say this. starting like I think in the next week or two, up at the North Pole, the sun will just start to rise.
Oh yeah.
It's been dark. You know, it's dark for like 6 weeks up in that neck of the woods, literally black. You know, so then now the sun is gonna start. So then as the shutdown, maybe when the shutdown, I'm thinking this: if they stop the shutdown and they get back, that I believe then the sun will rise even higher.
Oh, hey, that's probably I guess we'll see.
I guess we'll see. Yeah, you know, send a camera crew up there. Okay, so anyway, this is the next thing. Of course, we already just talked about this. President Trump on Thursday abruptly denied military aircraft to House Speaker. It says in a stunning decision that followed her call to delay the state of the.
Right. Well, he endangered her life.
Right. Well, you know,
by revealing that she had to.
That was the thing, right? It was supposed to be secret, and this, of course, is what's so funny. You know, you've endangered. You know, all. What's so funny about this is when they were sitting with Chuck and everybody.
It's treason to endanger the life of a.
Yeah, because you know you're revealed the fact that we're going to the war zone, and you know the next thing you know the people, the mob, and what are the people that did the not the people that. The Muslims or whatever are going to attack the plane or something on the tarmac in Brussels, I guess, because they know when it's going to show up there. As if, of course, when this giant gray USA Air Force plane, whatever it is, lands, like you don't know what it is.
Well, I mean, they'll have no security.
Right, they have no security with the. Well, that's the other reason they take the other people out of the 12 people that are the Senate or the House members. The other 80 people, or however many are on there, are buffer zones.
Yeah, right.
So, you all get out first.
We can absorb 72 bullets.
That's right.
When you talk about, what did you think of the Trump's border offer?
It was very good. I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the fact is, it was a nothing burger. I mean, what it did is, what the beauty of it is, it was the reason it was a nothing burger. It was very temporary. They said they wanted permanent DACA and permanent protect, whatever they call the other people, the temporary people that are permanent. They wanted to make that permanent. And he said, well, we'll give them 3 years and that's it. But give him my wall. And basically, he put the ball back in Nancy's court.
Right.
I mean, now
that's what I thought about it too.
Yeah. I mean, he did not even remotely cave on the money.
No.
Which was brilliant. I mean, you can't do that.
I liked Scott Adams' assessment of the wall term. Did you hear that?
No.
He said if he just would abandon the term wall.
No, I heard that, and I said I don't understand why he doesn't say barrier.
Well, not only a barrier, just border security. All he has to do is say, look, I want $5.7 billion for border security.
Right.
That's what I want, because that's what they tell me I need.
Right.
And so
no, you're right. You're right about that. And of course that is we'll see what happens.
Because that's even something. I mean, from the beginning, it has sounded as though he's going to build the Great Wall of China,
right,
from sea to sea, from sea to Gulf over there,
right.
And so if he would clarify that, I think
the way I look at it is simplest is best.
Sure.
I wouldn't clarify it. I mean, the simple fact is that he has said in the places where it's necessary, and you can look at some of the border places. There's nobody coming through there. I mean, it's a canyon or something like that. And there's the Rio Grande. Nobody's coming through there. I'm sorry. So you don't need a wall there.
Well, that's what everybody recognizes. I think is any type of deterrence slows down the flow in certain areas.
Well, they did have, and I'm going to talk about this. Speaking of that, did you see where they had found a new tunnel
underneath?
Yeah. Well, they were all. I mean, they had like a couple hundred of them. A couple hundred of them came through, and immediately they asked for asylum.
Mm-hmm.
They went right up to the border people and said,
"Why not?
We want asylum," and it was almost all women and children.
Right.
Which I thought was, some of the kids were unaccompanied or whatever. They were, I don't know, just kids. Mm-hmm. But that belies the some of the people that say it's all the military guys, military age kids that are coming over here. Anyway, this was one of those. And of course, they obviously closed down that particular tunnel, and they all showed up and said we want. So I guess they took them into the asylum place and started the procedure. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that tunnel was good for one trip.
Yeah, that's all they're good for.
You think about what it costs to make those tunnels, though.
Well, I'm wondering, and I forgot. I totally. Yeah, I got to see. Here, there's your tunnel right there.
Okay, yeah.
So look at that, lights and everything. They say millions potentially to make
Well,
a tunnel.
well, it got to be. When you think about it, if you have any kind of a tunnel at all, you've got to have big fans blowing the air through there.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. I think we can distinguish between tunnel and hole. That is to say, you can what you've got here is a real tunnel. This is a drug smuggling tunnel, the type that they build in industrial areas when there's Mexico has a bunch of people on one side, America has a bunch of people, and they'll tunnel under and up into a building over on the other side, and then they'll smuggle a bunch of drugs. But I think this one down here that they just found wasn't that just like they just like some regular people just went right under it, and then
I don't know,
because it looked like a couple of hundred people. They wouldn't build a tunnel to move migrants in one effort like that. It would be, I don't think,
like $5,000 a piece.
I mean, I suppose if that were the plan, but I kind of got the impression this was like a not so great of a piece of the wall, and they just sort of dug a hole underneath it real quick.
Well, now I don't know for sure.
I don't know,
but isn't just about the whole border on the Rio Grande? Or not?
A big portion of it.
Okay, well, this must not have been there because they're not going to dig under the Rio Grande.
Yeah, they do that actually.
Okay.
I know. Well, the Rio Grande, it goes down to a stream at some place.
Oh, I know it does. I know it does. But of course, the fun part would be if you had one of those little ground radar things where you can see it in the ground, you know. And if you see the tunnel, the fun part would be to go into the middle of the Rio Grande and punch a hole in it. So, yeah, okay. No, that wouldn't be fun. So, speaking of which, of course, another caravan.
Yes.
Nearly 1,000 Central American migrants in new caravans enter Mexico. So they've come from Honduras through Guatemala, and now they're in Mexico.
Yeah.
And this is an attest of the New Mexico government.
Yeah.
They've got a new government there, and of their pledge to stem the tide and see if they're going to do that. Manage an ongoing exodus fueled by violence and poverty that has strained relations with the Trump administration. I love this. They have Mexico's National Migration Institute. They got a department for this. Anyway, they're from El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua. Okay, crossing the Ciudad Hidalgo just days after the new U.S.-bound caravan, so forth, so on. So the Mexican president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, or whatever, is pursuing a humanitarian, quote-unquote, approach to the problem, vowing to stem the flow of people by finding jobs for the migrants. In exchange, he wants Trump to help spur economic development in the region. Of course, one of the things that we found is when governments want to spur economic development, you think Solyndra.
Oh yeah, well you should, because if you think that anybody can simply spur economic activity, you don't understand what business is.
No,
because anybody, if somebody could just spur economic activity, then somebody would be down there spurring it. I mean, you'd have Bill Gates down there spurring it, or Mark Cuban or somebody would be spurring it. The whole point is, you can't just spur something out of nothing. That's not what you throw trillions of dollars at it, and the trillions of dollars will go away.
Yeah.
You'll hire a bunch of people and create some jobs real fast. Did you notice you had that one story about that one federal worker who started her own business?
Yes.
And so Trump's a job creator.
No, exactly. She's 12 years old or something?
I don't know.
Well, there was one that was, I think she was a little girl, 12 years, partially blind. I've got it right. Daughter of furloughed federal employee starts small business to help the family. A Maryland resident and her mother began making sugar body scrubs in December at the start of the government shutdown. Bella, who is partially blind, has since created Bella Sweet Scrubs and has sold more than 500 of her $7 products to family, friends, and Etsy users across the nation, according to Good Morning America. Now,
sounds like she's in business.
Well, of course, the authorities have not shown up at her front door yet. And again, does she have a permit?
Right.
Pay taxes? You have a corporation? Blah, blah, blah. and no can do. I mean, who knows what? But I mean, I don't know what this says. 500 of her 7.
Shut her down.
Yeah, shut her down. Well, I mean, you figure she's got, she probably sold $3,000 or $4,000 worth at that, but she's got some overhead and stuff like that, whatever this stuff is. But as is pointed out, capitalism, the great thing, whatever. She's 12 years old, partially blind, for God's sakes, and started a business. So when you look at these people, they were saying that a lot of the, especially the contractor people they're not going to probably get reimbursed, have started being Uber drivers or Lyft drivers or something like that. Which is the little minor problem with that, of course, is once you flood an area with if you've got 20 Uber drivers ready to pick up somebody, the price is going to drop as you would expect. You're not going to make any money on that. You better have a car that gets 900 miles to the gallon. Okay, moving along. This is a space thing.
Aha!
Space billboards are just the latest orbital stunt. Mm-hmm. In January 2018, Rocket Lab, this is about a year ago, was sent a surprise to orbit. Along with its normal payloads, the launch company deployed a shiny object it dubbed the Humanity Star. Mm-hmm. And you're missing exactly right. That's right. Oh my God! So they're talking about this. I mean, this is so funny because it's a 3-foot wide disco ball that will reflect all kinds of stuff, and of course, the astronomers, the real astronomers, are complaining bitterly because now they're having light pollution from this disco ball.
Can you imagine if there was a bunch of billboards up there?
Well, no, this guy, over in Russia, a guy named Vlad saw it differently from both the scientists. For me, he says, it's great because someone made something new and it was entertainment. The idea that somebody could do this just intrigues me. So he started to think of a way he could use space for entertainment, more specifically for advertising. I decided to check the ability. It says, can we make a billboard in the sky? Maybe. And so he found a company, started up a Russian company, I guess, called Start Rocket, which plans to use hundreds strong constellation of CubeSats, each equipped with a reflective sail to display ads and perhaps emergency messages. But I mean,
can you imagine if Trump gets a hold of this technology? He's got his big face up there in the sky at night talking to us.
The Jimmy Dome Show has talked about this for over a decade.
Uh-huh.
I mean, when we were doing just the regular podcast without the video, we said we were going to put up a CubeSat and have it go around, and we wanted to play the Rolling Stones as it went around, and we had ways to upload different. We were going to take requests and upload the song as it went around and advertise the Jimmy Dome Show. We thought about this literally 15 years ago.
Well, he's doing a visual thing now.
I know that, but what I'm saying is, this is what happened. I mean, of course the next thing is visual after you do the audio. That's what it's all about. I mean, you have radio, and then you have movies. I mean, and television, or whatever it is. This is the way it goes.
It's movie in the sky. I can see it now. Trump, special announcement to all Americans.
Yeah, right. Blink, blink, blink.
Right.
No
the
more. The
moon just blinks for a few.
Well, the whole thing is, we're going to talk about the moon here in just a second, too. Everybody get your clock out. Where they're talking about the special alert that will override everything on your phone.
Right.
From the president.
That's what I was talking about.
Don't need that anymore.
No.
Just
Straight
comes across the sky.
To the sky.
Alert. Oh my God! Can you imagine? I mean, it seems so fun because now. These guys, the launching now, they're literally putting up over 100 satellites at each launch is putting over 100 satellites.
I wonder how large. They said how big was that disco ball?
3 feet.
And so what type of telescope? I mean, that's not. You can't. Is it naked eye?
I think so. I think because it's very reflective.
And what height do they?
I don't know. I think it's. I don't know.
3 feet.
I could guess. Yeah. But you're right. 3 feet doesn't seem. I mean, because it's all you can do to see this the space
space station.
Space station. If you know when it's coming across, it's just this little dot.
Right.
But I don't know if something's highly reflective. But like you say, maybe binoculars.
Yeah.
You could see it. But still, this is, as I say, the astronomers are all worried about light pollution, and I'm thinking, here's the deal. For one thing, it certainly is not in a synchronous orbit. So it's going to go across, and So you're gonna be blotted out maybe a few minutes or something like that. But it's hardly what you call blot. And of course, when you realize that the Hubble and all the other decent telescopes are above that.
Yeah.
So you're not, so every astronomers visualizes corrupts our view of the cosmos. Tweeted David Kipping.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay. Next item.
What do we got?
The next thing item is, you remember? I don't know if you remember this, but there was a bull rider that was killed. He was stomped.
Oh yeah.
He was thrown off and stomped, and he died. Bull crushed him and everything else. And so that now the Tuesday in Denver said they're mourning the rider's death, but the bull named Hard Times was not at fault. And it's funny because everybody in the rodeo wants to know it's not the bull's fault. He told USA Today Sports, it's a risk you take as a bull. It's like driving a car, it seems to me. People die if you're going to race around the track. It's turn, take a left turn. If you do that, their crashes are going to happen. Well, so anyway, they said the bull is. He says bulls are like people. I'm thinking, well, no, I don't know about that. They have their own personalities, and this bull is an athletic, good bull. So anyway, they're not going to hurt him. They take him out, and they're going to ride him again. This is going to be. He said Hard Times will likely compete within 60 days. Now you can imagine. If you're the guy, I would imagine they're lined up to get on this bull, the bull riders.
Oh yeah.
Totally. Oh yes, kidding?
Yeah.
People would pay to see that. Is this bull going to kill this guy again? It's like, how many people go to the NASCAR races to see, the reason
I gotcha, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They've loosened the wheels on the lug nuts on one of the cars.
Well, the thing about it is when you right. But when you think about it, you say people, well, we don't go to the race to see it crash. Yeah, well, you do. I'm sorry. When you think about it, when you're watching on TV,
a surprise oil slick will be added to the track.
They zero in on the
last lap.
It's like a football replay.
Right.
They show it again and again and again and so forth. So if you think that's not a newsworthy thing, so anyway, they're gonna have this bull ride again. As I say, the kids are gonna be. It reminds me a little bit. Speaking of bulls, I know that when I was in Spain and did the running of the bulls, there were kids. All the kids were running of the bulls, and then when we got into the arena. There were kids there, 12 years old, 13. They had their little red cloth, and they're practicing to be a thing. And then every once in a while, the bull, even the young bulls, would get a hold of this and throw them up in the air. I got video. I have films of that of these kids being tossed up in the air. And almost every year, almost at least one or two people get stomped bad. Usually it's an American.
You mess with the bull.
Yeah, you get the horn. That's right. That's right. Okay, so the next item I've got, which is this is to mark your calendars. Tonight, total lunar eclipse meets supermoon tonight. And
wolf moon,
wolf moon, right? But this is supposed to be. What happens is the moon is going to be close. Mm-hmm. It's at perigee or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I forget which one is which.
Right.
It begins the partial eclipse phase around 10:30 on Sunday, and that's when the Earth's shadow will begin to nip at the moon totality, and it'll last 62 minutes. Apparently, the passage will be beginning at about 11:41 Sunday. So what happens is the moon gets to be blood red, and the reason is that the sun, it reflects off of our atmosphere. And then it's because of the way it works and everything. So they call that a wolf moon or whatever. Blood moon.
Well, yeah. The wolf moon is just the first moon in January.
Oh, is that right?
First moon of the year, yeah.
I didn't know that.
And then the blood moon is the
when it's red.
Right. Yeah. And then the super moon is the one that's perigee.
Okay.
So that's why it's going to be big and red.
Big and red.
And it's the first one of the year.
Okay, so that'll be something to run out there. Mark your.
Check it out.
Put your little.
Freezing ass.
Well, you don't have an Alexa here, do you?
No.
Okay, so tell your Alexa to alert me at whatever time this is. Okay, this I thought was interesting. Florida, once again. Here we are in Florida.
Yes.
And what we're hearing for student debt crisis worsens. Florida Board of Health suspends licenses over defaults. This to me is stunning. Stunning. Only Florida.
And read what they do to the kids.
Here's the deal. The Florida Board of Health has suspended thousands of health care licenses over defaults on student loans. Many used to earn their license. In other words, they went into debt to be a doctor or nurse or whatever it was, and now the crackdown will now worsen the loan crisis. This reminds me a little bit of, when they arrest somebody's supposed to do restitution, but they put them in jail.
Right.
How are you going to work?
Right.
So the revocation of licenses came after the student loan industry lobbied the government, of course, to enact punishments for those who can't or won't repay the money they borrowed. Only Florida is enforcing the new laws of right now. The state also has the power to garnish up to 100% of workers' wages until the loan is repaid and the license reinstated. Under Florida law, once the state suspends a license for student loan default, the only way to get it back is to pay a fine equal to 10% of the balance plus other costs.
The only way under Florida law,
right,
is to pay 10%, which for medical loans has got to be $10,000 to $20,000.
Right.
Just like you're just supposed to come up with that, and this was a person who already couldn't pay their loans.
Right.
And so we've effectively allowed the financial institutions to cut off thousands of licenses for healthcare. If you think about it, people always think of licenses as being the qualifier. That is to say, if you got your license, then you're obviously competent to do the job.
Exactly.
Well, this obviously has nothing to do with these people's competence.
Right.
We're literally just removing capacity for healthcare out of the market, just wholesale. Just a huge swath of able-bodied people. You're out. Because you haven't paid, the providers haven't paid enough to the government.
Well, of course, this also to go back in history, of course, shows one of the the perils of student loan, the way the student loan racket works.
Right.
Because if the government hadn't been involved in the education in the first place, the prices wouldn't be that high.
Right.
I mean, in a free market, you would have gotten with the way it's expensive, don't get me wrong, to get your doctor's license or something like that.
Sure.
But I mean, in nursing, I know that, I remember I helped a friend of mine here get her nurse's license, and I loaned her $10,000. Well, she paid me back. It wasn't a big deal. That was her student loan. But I mean, this was, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago at least, something like that. And it was at the community college, and she got her, and so she's doing, but the idea that you have to pay that kind of the kind of money you do for this stuff, and you have to take out a student loan, I don't know. It's just,
well, as we saw, you don't have to take out a student loan, but of course, as we saw,
right.
once they were guaranteed government student loans for all kinds of things, well, all the prices got jacked up.
Right, exactly.
And so they went through the roof, and so that's why, I mean, it's free money out there, and as a student, you're going to take the money from X, give it to Y, because it's going back through at some point, or at least that's the idea. But of course, if they suspend your license, then you're not making nothing.
And of course, this shows you, once again, as we've said, licensing is one of these things that is just a tragic.
What a scam.
What a scam.
And these poor
the thing about it is, are these people any less competent?
Well, right. Not even a little bit. But
they are totally competent.
And they've been completely disenfranchised from their identities.
Right.
I mean, they can't work in healthcare.
No.
What are they supposed to do? Go get a job waiting tables, bartending?
Oh yeah.
And they will. Uber driving?
Yeah.
Because now
$8 an hour, where they were getting paid $60,000 a year.
Right.
Whatever, but I mean, even a nurse, I guess, gets something like that.
Yeah.
Nurse helper, whatever they are.
Right.
Some of these people, but I mean, I can understand if you happen to get your degree is in transgender Latin studies, that you might have with a student loan of $100,000, you might have trouble paying that back. But healthcare, I mean, that's a big deal.
Well, and what's crazy is, of course, any of these people whose salaries were going to pay for other people's student loans will now go into default.
Right.
If they're married and have kids or something like that, a lot of times they're pooling resources.
Right.
So you could have a situation where this creates even worse cascading effects. It's horrendous. 100%. Can you imagine getting 100%? Actually, you can, of your wages garnished. I mean, what?
Well, let me tell you, just don't laugh.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I remember years ago, I mean, many years ago, when I was a little delinquent in my taxes, I remember getting a paycheck for $0.
$0.
It was been garnished. It had been garnished by the IRS.
Well, it's just your white privilege.
Yeah, I know. That's right. My white privilege. Oh God, we can talk about that some more. Okay, the FDA, of course, another government agency, and of course, I'm wondering, why are these people still in business? I thought they were going to be furloughed. The FDA, aren't they? Aren't they like not there anymore because of the shutdown? No, they're threatening to pull e-cigarettes off the market. This is great.
Oh, yeah.
The Food and Drug Administration says that e-cigarettes face an uncertain future in the U.S. markets unless youth stop smoking, stop vaping. Speaking at a public hearing in Silver Spring, Maryland, FDA Commissar, whatever, Scott Gottlieb, said he could see the entire category of e-cigarettes and vaping products removed from store shelves if companies don't stop marketing such products to youth. Okay, I'll tell you this, he said. If the youth use continues to rise and we see significant increases in use in 2019, on top of the dramatic rise in 2018, the entire category will face an existential threat. So apparently they've got a way to monitor how many e-cigarettes get sold. And I guess they do some statistical thing on how much of it's going to use. It does turn out they have found out that a huge amount of the increase, I don't know, there was like a 100% increase last year or something in vaping. And this was, and a lot of it's young people, and they're supposed to, again, this is one of those things where technically, if you walk in to the 7-Eleven here or whatever and ask for a pack of Marlboros, you have to be 21. But apparently it's a lot easier to get these vaping things. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's probably only 18 or something for those, and or maybe even not. I think the explosion has happened because of the technology allowing any chemicals to be added to the mixture that's smoked.
Well, that's the thing.
So now they can.
There's 100 different flavors.
Well, and not only that, but they can put nicotine in there. So
well, that's what they do, of course.
Right.
It's the thing about the problem, of course, with cigarettes supposedly is all the other crap that's in there in the tobacco, because all the curing and everything. I mean, there's all kinds of carcinogens, as we know.
Right.
But if you just put pure nicotine, apparently nicotine by itself is not as carcinogenic as smoking, the tobacco. I don't know. I mean,
right. I don't know either. And I also know, I'm pretty sure that they infuse those products with marijuana stuff as well, with THC or CBD oil. And
really?
so, yeah. So I think that what's happening is, I think you can, you buy your vape pen and you're pretending to just smoke strawberry or something.
And guess
you're
what?
getting wasted, So
bring on the Fritos.
That's right. And so I that's what I'm guessing is leading to the explosion.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if the FDA has the authority just to close. I mean, because we have
just
here in town,
unilaterally just shut everybody down.
In this town, there are, I don't know how many, half a dozen or so stores that do nothing but the vaping stuff. That's all they sell.
Right.
Vape City or whatever it is. I mean, and suddenly, noon tomorrow, you're out of business.
I decree. And what people always say, of course, it's not the vaporizing that gets banned. It's people's use of the stuff.
Right.
And you have to ask yourself, who are these people harming? What are these people doing that's harming somebody that they need to be prevented from doing their vaping?
They do it all the time,
I know
you think you own your body, you don't.
Apparently not.
No, well, we know even in our Florida Constitution, if you think you own your children, no, you don't.
Right.
This is the number.
The body thing is huge, and of course they get away with it by saying it's kids. Oh, well, we're just shutting down for the kids. It's not for the adults.
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to affect all the adults too, but we're just shutting it down to protect the kids.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't rely on the parents to protect the kids because, like you just said, it's our job under the Constitution to protect the kids, not the parents. So we're going to do that.
It'll be interesting to see if they do try and if they do try and shut down the business, people are still gonna, they're gonna mail order this stuff, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so what? Then they'll have to say, if we catch you vaping, I'm sorry, you get a fine.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And my guess is that these materials can be transported through airports pretty easily.
Yeah.
I don't think that they are going to register with the dogs in quite the same way.
No, I mean, no, of course not. And they're certainly not going to. I wouldn't think that they're going to show up on any scanner.
Right. I mean, it's just a tube of stuff or something, It's just,
okay, moving along. This is another thing. We're in our favorite New York City, which is De Blasio has decided to double down.
This is a couple weeks old. This one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Pitches a plan to seize private property on problem landlords.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that about a month ago.
Really?
Yeah, it was on my list to talk about.
Oh my God!
But he's just threatening it at this point. So
I know. He says he wants to allow the city government to seize buildings of landlords who force tenants out. One of the things that's interesting. This shows you, of course. We haven't talked about it, even though it's a month old. Let's talk about it anyway.
Okay.
About rent control, which always does exactly 180 degrees the opposite of what you think it does.
What?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's almost a meme that people scour the obituary pages to see if somebody died in one of these rent-controlled apartments, and they line up out there, but see if you can be first to get there and say, "I'll take it over for you," because that way you still keep it in the dead person's name.
Right.
I don't know exactly how it works, but the idea is, so you're paying $200 a month for a $1,500, $2,000 apartment. Anyway, the thing about it though is apparently the landlords, of course, they're not idiots. They know they want to make money. They own this building, and they've got a bunch of tenants in there. And now of course, some of it maybe is rent controlled or something. And he's saying, I'm not making enough money to pay the taxes or whatever it is. So they start to let the place go down the toilet because there's no money there.
You got no money to repair.
So somebody comes along and says, tell you what, I'm going to convert it into condos, brand new use, and we'll sell it. And so what I want to do is I want to buy the building from you, but you have to get the tenants out. I mean, you can't buy because they have tenant rights. Mm-hmm. Rent control is part of that. And so as long as this person stays in the room, so the landlord, we can't buy the building. So what they do is the tenants squat basically in there, and the water goes down and goes off, and the heat goes off, and these people are still staying there. And because it's got no place else to go, I guess. And so the building starts to deteriorate. But the obvious reason is because the government has imposed this rent control business.
It's because the landlords hate people.
Right, exactly. As if the guy who owns a building deliberately wants to see it go down the toilet and kick people on.
That's what he wants to do. His end game is to kick everyone out.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there was a movie with Danny DeVito about this, where the judge, there was a slumlord guy, and the judge sentenced him to live in his own apartment.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It was a cute movie on that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so De Blasio, what he wants to do, of course, is to get the buildings, condemn them or whatever do, and pull an executive. He wants an executive order to create a mayor's office to protect tenants. MOPT. He said in the event the government intervenes, the buildings would then be controlled by a quote community nonprofit. So when the people try and what they're going to do is to set up on this MOPT business, they have a team of inspectors, and law enforcement agents will be on the ground to stop it. Mm-hmm. This stuff. If the fines and penalties don't cut it, we will seize their buildings and we'll put them in the hands of community nonprofit that will treat tenants with the respect they deserve.
Right, because the community nonprofit buildings are doing great.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh my God. So anyway, that's, let's see, how are we doing here on time? I got a couple of minutes. Do you have anything in particular?
Well, I did want to mention our Gainesville situation here.
Okay.
And that is, we had, Gainesville, our city, has cleaned up the world by banning plastic bags and styrofoam. You went down to the meeting.
Yes, I did. And I went down to the meeting.
And they listened to you and did what you said.
No. they basically it was unanimous to do this.
Whatever George said, whatever Jimmy said, we're doing the opposite
They
of that.
did. No, they'd already made up their minds. I mean, it was obvious they'd already made up their minds. And when you went in there, because they talked about. But what was interesting is what I
Why
said.
do you hate the Earth? Is the question, I guess.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, what I thought was kind of interesting about this. This is the city of Gainesville.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is city stuff. And how about the roads? How about the potholes? No, they decided to take on the world. We're going to clean up the world, and this is our job of the city of Gainesville now. 129,000 people, souls, and the 7 people on the commission decided we are going to make the world safe for humanity, and we're going to ban the styrofoam containers and the public's plastic bags that they use. Do you want paper or plastic? And of course, you can still get paper if you want, I guess. Anyway, that's not. It's supposed to go into effect here in a couple months. But they've said it's going to go anyway, and there's a fine situation of fines. First $250, then $500, then you go to jail or something. But the point is that this is what is going to happen. Obviously, is the great unintended consequences is going to happen. Yep, it's going to. What they're hoping is that everybody will suddenly ride their bicycle with their cloth bag over to the store and then ride home. Of course, it doesn't. If you're in your 80s, I don't know. Maybe you get a subsidy for your bike or something. But the deal is that you don't know what's going. First of all, it does not ban, of course, the little plastic clam things. It's a styrofoam.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of places here in town that when you want to take your doggy food home, it comes in a plastic thing, and so plastic is supposed to be bad too. I guess they'll get around to that next. Mm-hmm. And as far as the plastic bags are concerned at the store, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. How that does. What they've hung their hat on is that in Coral Gables, which is really a real lefty place down in Miami. I mean, really.
I lived there.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what I'm talking about. They passed a law somewhat similar to this. Well, that's down there. I mean, that's like San Francisco East or something. Coral Gables, just about. Mm-hmm. But so they said, well, if they can do it, we can do it too.
Right.
Well, no, but see, we're different here. I mean, this is a student town, for God's sake.
Well, how about just why is everybody so quick to reach for their guns? Is what I always come to. I mean, look, if this is such a great idea, how come you can't convince people to do it?
Well, it's interesting you should mention that, because at the hearing, there were 2 restaurant people that showed up and said, we've already been doing this. And so we're all for it. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. You're a private person. You've already done it. And now what do you want to do? You want to level the playing field. Maybe you think that somebody is out competing you because they can put styrofoam or plastic bags, and you are paying extra, I guess, maybe. I mean, it can't be all that much extra, I think, for your plastic thingies.
I didn't think it could be much extra either, but I saw one estimate that said it was 4 times as much to use paper to-go containers. This one lady's whole business is to go.
Well, I find that hard to believe in a way, because I know
but
that McDonald's, they have the paper things for your Big Macs.
Yeah, well, and look, it's gone back and forth a few different times. I mean, when the whole reason we went to plastic, I thought, was because they didn't want to kill the trees or something.
Right. Well, that was it. Right. That was the other thing. They didn't want to kill the trees, and they went to plastic. And of course, the other thing is that if you suddenly, and of course they're saying, well, we're going to give everybody time to adjust. It's not going to go into effect until August 1st, and you can ramp up, your suppliers. Well, I don't know how long in advance you have to order this stuff, but normally, you got your whole back room filled with, 2 or 3 months supply. And if everybody suddenly in Gainesville, all the stores and everybody suddenly say they're not going to order plastic bags anymore, but going to order paper or whatever else they're going to order, I mean, the suppliers are going to be on the hook for this.
No, that's why they made it August 1st. That'll work out just fine. To me, it's just disappointing. So many of my friends went online to cheer this effort, and it's not the effort that I don't like. It's the fact that they all feel like they have to use guns to make it happen. It's like, why they all?
If it's such a good deal,
right.
Why do you need to? Yeah,
right. And they were. I went through and there was an article a couple of years ago. There were a bunch of restaurateurs had commented the last time the measure failed, and they were talking about the expense that it would be to them, and I guess the community just.
Well, I think what they're thinking is that if everybody has to bear this extra expense, then it's all level. It all works out okay.
Right, and so it just makes Gainesville a more expensive community to live in.
Right. Well, the other thing is that we're saving the world.
Right. I mean, where does our landfill stuff go? Like right out here or something?
I don't know where it doesn't really matter, but it's. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter that much. But again, they're going to save the world, and they always bring up the scary thing about. They look at the Pacific Ocean and there's a turtle with a little plasticky thing on his head. Okay, yeah, and we're responsible for that. So, okay. Okay.
I just, why don't they just make a ban on littering? Oh, there already is one.
Boy, it's interesting you say that. When you drive around this country, I thought it was interesting. The fines, like a lot of places, it'd be $100. Out in Palm Desert, it's $1,000 for littering.
I've seen $500.
Oh no! I was driving to Palm Desert. This was 20 years ago.
Right.
$1,000. Mm-hmm. So good luck. That's why looking in your mirror and everything. No, there are people that are just totally bent out of shape, and we talked about this last time about the parks are closed and everything, and who's cleaning up the trash. In some places they are. We have people here, for instance, that we have roads that'll say. This road patrolled by so-and-so community group.
Right.
And they're the ones that go out and pick up the trash.
Right.
And so, you think it's... I've had some people talk the other day, this is tragic, this is horrible, you never see this in Germany and so forth. Well, okay, I understand that, but it's a different culture. In Germany, I mean, I know that...
We didn't kill 6 million Jews either, so...
Well, that's right. There you go. Okay, well, I'm just about done.
Go ahead.
I do have tough times for Amsterdam sex business.
It's tough time.
Tough time. What's happened in as you know, there's the red light district.
Yeah.
And what they found is that these girls, because they display their wares in a window, in this one area. Well, what's happened is that the tourists are going nuts, and what they're doing is they're not paying. They're going up there and taking pictures, or they're doing selfies with themselves in front of the window with the girl, and they're not letting the paying customers in. So it's just funny because the mayor of Amsterdam has said, well, we'll have to address this somehow because this is.
They're doing some rotational system or something.
I don't know. Yeah, that's right. They're allowing either. I think they're going to block off the streets or something. And
they're rotating the district around or something stupid.
You have to buy a ticket to get in there.
I don't know.
This is your.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, let me just think now. This is one thing we talked about before. This is interesting. We've always talked about the what is it called? In 2029, what's his name? Ray said we're supposed to have the singularity.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's when the computers will be smarter than humans or whatever. Well, interestingly enough, we're getting there. Mm-hmm. Humans to download their souls into microchips so they can live forever.
Yeah.
People will be able to download their souls into microchips, implant it into another body, and live forever. A technology expert has claimed. Apparently, now that they're actually doing the chips, the biochips already in your. Apparently, it's right in here, and this does your heart rate. It does all the stuff. I mean, it's like one of those RFID thingies, but it collects tons of data, even more than the Apple Watch, and it does all kinds of good stuff. So now they're thinking what we're going to do is when you realize that you can get a couple terabytes into this little chippy, you're going to download your soul into this thing, and then hey, here we go.
Yeah. Well, and there is always the curiosity of the part by part replacement theory. That is, if we can replace one part of you, why can't we replace another part of you after that, another part of you?
They've done that. I mean,
but then the question is, at what point? I mean, can you do the whole thing like that?
Right.
And are you then still you at the end of it all? Like if they replace, your arm, you could see everything except for the brain. That's the hard part. Everything else is just cells and tissue and.
Well, aren't you like that guy in RoboCop? Just.
Well, it'd be interesting to see, and I guess we'll find out eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, it won't be too long.
No, well, it is. As I say, I've got two lungs. Most of my, almost everybody I know's got knees and hips and
People, the bionics are coming online. I saw a guy give a TED talk standing on 2 fake legs, and he was dancing around and doing all kinds of stuff. And he was saying now it's at the point where your prosthetics are adding ability as opposed
yeah. Well, they were talking about. Speaking of that, before we sign off here, have they decided to ban on the Olympics these guys that are on their spring legs?
I don't know. I mean, I would think you would have to have a sort of enhanced Olympics games.
Yeah, something like
natural and all natural and steroids and then robotically enhanced or something. I don't know. I forgot to mention about the marijuana thing. The Florida governor is actually taking up issue with the situation. And he is instructing his people to interpret the constitutional amendment that we passed as allowing the use of the flower itself, as opposed to just the derivatives.
Right.
He's not a fan of the vertical integration that we have. So
yeah, no, he's not. It's interesting. He's done a couple of things. I noticed that he has dismissed a bunch of employees. Not only the Broward County Supervisor of Elections, but 2 or 3 others around here in Florida that have had these sinecure jobs, whatever it is, jobs for how many years? Because once you get in, you have to die to get out. But I mean, of course they've tended to abuse their power. But apparently he's dismissed a whole bunch of those kinds of employees. And this thing here about being able, he wants to go on to full blown smokeroo. That'll be good to see.
All right. Is that about it?
Yeah. We're running a little bit over.
Oh, did you notice? Oh, yeah. Did you notice the Apology Fest has begun?
No, which one?
The candidates. So you had this week. You had Tulsi Gabbard came out and did a mea culpa.
Okay.
On her past homophobism.
Yeah.
And then the other one now is Gillibrand is out apologizing for her past racism and so we'll see everybody's come out.
Yeah. Well, you know who we didn't talk about today?
Who's that?
AOC.
Well, we just did. Yeah. No, I didn't have anything on her from this week.
No, I did.
But
the press is following her around. I saw pictures of her in the hallway and the Capitol or something, and there's pictures all the time there. Apparently they got a couple of stringers in the various news places. Your job is to follow her.
Wouldn't surprise me.
No.
All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm going to post this up on YouTube in just a minute. Time stamped. Thanks, buddy Chad, Kelly, Gene. Good to see you guys. And also, I'm going to play something here in a minute. First of all, let me thank Kevin MacLeod for this tune right here, which is called Cold Funk, and our other one, Whiskey on the Mississippi, which we played earlier. And then, I have a special treat for you guys. I'm going to play at the end here. This is an Aero Mexico ad, which is hilarious.
Oh, is this? Okay.
They troll the crap out of everybody. It's great. You'll see. So that'll be it.
Crank it up.
All right, let's see about this.
This is to get the people over the border or something, or?
Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
Mexico's first destination is America. But America's first destination is not Mexico. So, we went to a typical American town to ask why they don't consider Mexico an option to travel to.
Would you consider going to Mexico?
No way.
The idea of going to Mexico is not something that I would foresee.
That's not my cup of tea.
Let me stay here in peace and let those folks stay on their side of the border.
Do you like tequila?
Yes.
Do you like burritos?
Yeah.
Do you like Mexico?
No.
And when your company name is Aeromexico, well, so how do we increase USA flights to Mexico if a big part of Americans just don't like Mexico? According to the Department of Homeland Security, Mexican immigration goes as far as the 1800s settling in on the South, meaning that a big percentage of Mexican ascendants in the USA doesn't even know it yet. So we did a DNA test to prove it and turn those results into discounts. The more Mexican they are, the more discount they get.
Joshua, you are 18% Mexican.
Oh, wow.
So you get 18% off to fly to Mexico. Charlotte?
You are 14.4% Mexican.
You're 22% Mexican.
That's bullshit. That is bullshit.
You are 18% Mexican.
Well, that's better than you.
So you get 22% off to fly to Mexico.
Oh, come on now. Seriously? Okay. That's for real. So what if I want to take my wife?
Eligible for a 15% discount to go to Mexico. What do you think about that?
I love discounts.
Sorry, Betsy. You're only 3% Mexican.
So we kept giving discounts all over Southern America in our travel agencies. DNA discounts. There are no